And what I guess I'm asking you, the student, to do is to look back into yourself and your times and your place and ask yourself what kinds of changes have taken place and what is the nature of that change. Then maybe you can understand the kinds of changes that people underwent in earlier times.
Why don't you tell me what it was like to when you left the university and you came out west?
Oh, that was awful. So the first trip away from home, really, and first time I'd ever been separated from any of my brothers. And I got on the train, Chicago, and I cried for 3 days without ever stopping. Two whole days without ever stopping. Then I faced up to myself and I said, what a wife you're making. So I went in the restroom and washed my face and powdered up, or if I had any powder. And I said, that's the last tears you'll ever see me shed. They were. I won't say that they're the last ones I ever spilled, but they're the last ones he ever saw.
What was it like to travel?
Well, same as now, the same roads. The Northern Pacific had been built shortly before that, and well, that was all that there was, except the stagecoach. There was no other way of transportation. You either went by the railroads, such as they were, or you went by stagecoach, one or the other. I did plenty of both, especially the coaches, because we lived in, well, all those places that were just nothing, you know. John Day, I was trying to think. We were quite a distance even from a stagecoach. And I had the bad taste to become very sick in that place. And my husband took me by, well, first we went on a little logging road, logging engine. That took us to Baker City. And at Baker City we transferred to a through train to Portland. Now that's how we traveled. Any way you could.
When you went to college, what was college like?
Just like it is today.
What was that? What was that like?
Well, I went back to college when my children were in college, and I couldn't see that it was any different. It was the same place, Ann Arbor.
What was it like the first time?
Well, I was majoring in languages at that time, and there was a lot of language study. And then I gave up all of that. I thought, well, all those languages, I'm getting a lot of Latin and Greek, and they're dead languages, and I want something that's alive. So then I went in for I had a lot of history and a lot of, we had a lot of political science. And that's what I majored in, and it was political science, starting out to be a teacher of the languages. I wound up that way. But I was glad of it, always glad I made the change. I'll tell you something that you may think is kind of funny. The first Saturday that we were there, a Holland missionary came to see us. He was our pastor there. Well, I told him my husband would be home that evening and invited him to come back for dinner, which I did. And did he ever eat? Oh, my land of the living. He stood up to fill his plate, Indian fashion. That's the way they all do. which I didn't know. There were more things I didn't know than what I did. Well, anyway, we got through that meal. The next morning was Sunday, and Father was out, and he put up one of those little confessionals, you know, just, and I was the only one to go. And I was no more than started when this biggest Indian I ever saw walked in. And I could see, I knew there was somebody behind me, you see. And I was scared stiff. I just wondered why Father didn't do something. But nothing happened. And I soon saw that he followed everybody into the confessional, keeping a close tab on his Indians, you see.
When you were in John Day, what did you do for entertainment?
Didn't have any. Some had cars even then. We had an old EMF that Dad said it stood for every morning fix-it, but we used it. The first, you could see the funny part of this. We first got talking about an automobile, you know, and we decided to get one. Well, of course, the only kind you could buy was dilapidated. But we bought one, went out for a ride the first Sunday. We had 7 flat tires on that one little outing. Well, we decided that that part of the West wasn't ready for automobiles.
What kind of stores did you have?
Well, in John Day, we had 2 or 3 stores, none of them very modern. And, well, take for instance now, the butcher shop. He went out, the butcher went out by horse and buggy and bought the meat for each day. There was no refrigeration. Now you can picture this, the rest of it.
You had to go grocery shopping every day.
Well, if you bought meat every day.
Could you buy everything you needed in the store?
Well, if we didn't, we went without. Yeah. There would be times when things would be in season. Well, we could live well then, you see. But when the season was over, well, that was over, you see. You just learn to accommodate yourself, Robert. Just,
when you got refrigeration, what did you do with it?
oh, loaded it full. That was wonderful when we got refrigeration. We just loaded it full.
Why did people go along with industrialization?
Well, we were so sick and tired of doing without things that we knew other people were enjoying, and we didn't have them. We were grabbing at straws. Well, you can imagine. I was one. We were getting along with cook stoves and cooking over an ancient piece of whatever you call it.
This was a stove that you had to put wood in?
Wood in. Didn't even have coal to put in it, you know. And every night you had to stoke it so it'd burn all night. And, well, it was just plain big nuisance. And especially if you'd had a nice stove and been accustomed to gas or electricity, you'd notice it. If you didn't, your wife would. And you'd have to notice it because you'd have to furnish the material to stoke it. The wood pile was always in evidence. We had to keep a supply on hand that was chopped and ready to use, you see. And, well, it was just that way, that you either had or you didn't have.